Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Real Pod. Today is Max and my 3-year anniversary. Woohoo! So exciting. I can't believe that it's been 3 years married now. 3 years ago today was our wedding. It's crazy. It feels like forever ago because I was so young when I got married. It feels like now that I'm 28. I was 25 when I got married. Whenever I post about how far we have passed the wedding, people will comment, no, there's no way. Like, I thought this was last year. So it's crazy. But because it's our anniversary, I wanted to think up a topic for today's episode that was related to weddings and marriage. And if you are in my VGB VIP broadcast channel on Instagram, I sent a little poll of options of topics for today's episode. And this topic was the most highly requested and voted in the poll. And that is the 6 non-negotiables when choosing your life partner. They say the most important decision of your life is who you marry. And I agree with that. My mom said that to me all the time growing up. The most important decision you ever make in your life is who you marry. I think it's so important to be sure of your decision. I get a lot of people asking me, how do you know? Is it true if you know, you know? Unfortunately, yes. There's no good answer other than when you know, you know. But hopefully today's episode can give some more insight into the things I evaluated when I want to say choosing my life partner. I obviously fell in love with Max for who he is and so many of these things naturally. But now that I've been married for 3 years, I can really think about what are the traits and attributes of this person that I'm spending my entire life with that are absolutely non-negotiables for me. I didn't know this at the time. I feel really grateful that it's the way Max and I have grown together. Maybe I knew it subconsciously and it was what I was attracted to, but today I took the time to put it all into words to share with you. I do want to give a little disclaimer that these are my non-negotiables. You might have a different view. I definitely don't want you out there like, this is Victoria Garrick Brown's list, and if they don't fall into this list, I can't marry them. No. Do what is best for you, but these are obviously my non-negotiables and I'm just sharing them. So take it with a grain of salt. Before we get started, I do want to say that there are the obvious things, okay? There is being funny, there's being loyal, passionate, having shared values, being family-oriented, having strong trust and a sense of loyalty. I'm just going to give those all an honorable mention. If I recorded a podcast episode where I went through trust, being funny, you would be bored, right? We know that stuff. Remember when that trend was bare necessities, the simple bare necessities? Like those things, duh. Like let's hope that's the first thing on everyone's mind. I took it to the next level for this episode where I went a little bit more granular and nuanced with some of these attributes. So honorable mention, once again, for being funny, loyal, passionate, having shared values, being family-oriented, having trust. You know, those things go without saying, especially the being funny. Like I could not be married to someone I wasn't constantly laughing with and having fun with. So that's stating the obvious. That said, today, I'm sharing 6 non-negotiables that are not just preferences, but they're more like foundational qualities or behaviors that I believe uphold a strong, safe, and beautiful partnership between two people. Okay, so let's get into the first one. The first one is having a strong sense of self-awareness and accountability. This is huge. There are a lot of people walking the earth who are not self-aware. It's actually crazy to me. Crazy to me and Max. We just can't compute it. But being self-aware and being able to take accountability is huge. And I wanted to kick off this episode by actually calling myself out and giving an example of a time where I lacked self-awareness, then was able to see it, and then took accountability, because I think that's what this first one's all about. Also, the reason I'm giving an example of myself and not Max is because, yes, this episode is about my non-negotiables in a life partner, but that applies to me. I believe that if you're going to have a list of the standards of a person who gets to be your life partner, you better bet you're meeting them too. Like, it would not be fair for me to say these are the standards for Max, but I get to break the rules, or but I don't have to be accountable for when I'm wrong, you know, or I don't have to receive constructive criticism. Like that's not going to work. So all 6 of these are things that I think apply to myself as well as my life partner, which is Max. So this first one, self-awareness and accountability, the example I want to share with you, and I'll be honest, I'm a little worried about judgment here, but This is Real Pod and we want to be vulnerable and talk about growth. But right when Max had graduated college and I knew we were in love and we wanted to marry each other, he was in this unique spot where he didn't know his life plan. The NFL did not work out for him. Sad tear rolling down my face. Go back and listen to Max's OG Real Pod episode about his football journey. It's called What Happened to the Nation's #1 Recruit. Max cries in it. I cry. It's very sweet, but it's all about how his football journey sadly did not work out. So he was figuring out, what to do next. He didn't have a resume. He didn't have any thoughts on like, what's my desk job going to be or my corporate career. He truly thought he was going to make it to the NFL. So he was in this really vulnerable spot in life about like, what do I do next? And I grew up in a household where I saw the man make money and the woman stay at home. My dad worked and my mom didn't, although she did in that she raised 3 children and like worked overtime doing that. So she was an incredible stay-at-home mom, and that's a job in itself. But I saw a man making money and bringing dollars to a household and the woman keeping the home, essentially. And I would be lying if that stereotype of a heterosexual couple did not influence me. And basically, Max and I had this talk one day about like our future life and our finances and like the life we want to live together. And I definitely think I came down on him pretty hard in just the urgency and the stress of like, you need to make money to support the life we want to have. And like, that is a huge priority. And then whatever I do, like I wanted to work and I was passionate about working and I was already building my brand in college, but I very much had this mindset of like always having thought subconsciously that the man I end up with would make more money than me. I want to literally yak saying that out loud because it's so not feminist and it's so narrow-minded and I've grown so much since then, but that's where I was at the time. It's what had been modeled to me my entire life. That was my mom's mom and her husband. Then their parents immigrated from Greece and were in arranged marriage where a woman was sent over to marry him. Like all that I've seen from my mom's side has been women who keep the home and men who provide financially. So sue me that was my narrow-minded thinking at the time. Anyways, that conversation put a lot of pressure on Max and he ended up expressing that to me. Like, I'm feeling very anxious and stressed about this pressure you've put on me. And I was able to gain the self-awareness to say, wow, I'm projecting what I have seen and take accountability and say like, I'm sorry. That wasn't right of me. I regret the way that this conversation was had. I genuinely don't believe that. I don't want that. Like, I'm passionate about my career. I want us to be an equal household, double income. Like, that's not really how I feel. That was just like my subconscious speaking. So that's an example of a time where like I needed to gain the self-awareness and then backtrack and take accountability. My therapist has actually given me this word of backpedal, which I love. And I think having the ability to backpedal is such a strength to say, oh, wait, yeah, I didn't see it that way. Or, ooh, I messed up with that. Or, I didn't even realize that like that was my ego talking or I was projecting. So this first non-negotiable of being self-aware and being able to take accountability is huge. I could list the thousands of times Max has done this as well. He's better at it than me, but I wanted to kick this episode off with being vulnerable with an example from myself. So that's number 1. My second non-negotiable for a life partner is mutual respect. Now, what I mean by this is not just like a baseline of adoration or liking the person, obviously, but respect. A deep respect where I can't think of a time Max or I have ever taken a malicious jab at each other, ever. We've never been in an argument and poked at each other's vulnerabilities. He's never weaponized my eating disorder against me or a vulnerable relationship that I have in my life. I've never weaponized his insecurities or the things he's told me in confidence. Honestly, I don't love to give this example because I don't want to comment on someone else's marriage, but it's just coming to mind right now. When Justin Bieber posted and was like, I'm sorry about that time we were in a fight and I yelled, you'd never be on the cover of Vogue. I mean, that like took me for a spin. It's just a non-negotiable for me that I would ever feel like unsafe in an argument with my partner where they would take a dig that you would only take to your siblings or, I mean, yeah, I can think of, yes, my siblings and I for sure. We've gotten ugly and we've said some cruel things. They're my siblings. My life partner, no, I'm sorry, non-negotiable. Along with that, Max and I never raise our voices at each other and we never swear at each other. I guess as it comes out of my mouth, of course, we've raised our voices as we've gotten passionate in arguments where you just don't feel like you're being heard. So then you just start talking louder, right? You talk like that. But we've never been like, how dare you, blah, blah, blah. We've never like yelled at each other. It's truly only came from a place of like, I want to be heard in this moment. We even had a moment recently where we reconnected to reset because I was like, I feel like I've been noticing us raising our voices with a little bit more of an aggressive tone than usual. And I just want us both to check ourselves and like go back to, we're not going to speak that way because it's not the best way for us to get our point across. It's not a great spot for the other person to be to receive what you're saying. And we never swear. Like he has never, ever called me a bitch. I don't even allow like it in a joking term. Like I've just set not that he ever would. He's literally so sweet. But like even from the beginning, I've never even said, am I being a bitch right now? And he's never even said like, you're acting like a bitch. Even if you've ever seen that in reality TV where the person's like, I didn't say you were, I said you were acting like that stuff. Just no. I've never called him a dick. I've never called him a douche. I've never called him a prick. That to me lacks respect in the other person, especially in conflict. And then another category I think this respect falls into is respect for each other's families. And I think there's so many nuanced family dynamics, especially when you're merging families and your families meet and you have siblings and there's dynamics and things don't always go right or you don't always feel pleasant, whatever it is. At the end of the day, we also carry this respect on to both of our families. You know what? Here's an example I'll give. And this is actually about my mom. And this is where I think this has been passed down to me. But my mom and dad, when they got married, there was an issue ahead of the wedding. And my mom's mother-in-law ignored her entirely on her wedding day. She didn't look at her. She didn't speak to her. Yeah. So didn't tell her she looked beautiful. Didn't say hi to her family. My mom's mother-in-law didn't acknowledge her existence at her own wedding. Imagine that. Okay. One thing I love about the way my mom handled this is she was like, you know what? Obviously she cried. That hurts. This sucks. But that's my husband's mother. And at some point, I just have a level where I need to respect this woman because she raised my husband and that's his mother and he has a love for her and adoration and I never want to interfere with his relationship with his parents. And then obviously a few years later when my mom had her firstborn, my older brother, Jonathan, of course, then her mother-in-law wanted back in the picture like nothing happened. I want to be around the grandbabies. And my mom let her right in. Never addressed it, never held a grudge, never said, screw you, you're not meeting our grandbabies, because that's her husband's mom. And she knew my dad would want his parents involved in his kid's life. And she just took the high road. And I think that's another part of this. Like, obviously, if there's like verbal abuse or physical abuse or anything like that, of course, that's a non-negotiable and there's boundaries and there's consequences. But if there's just like petty disagreements and like people are just petty, taking the high road and like respecting. And I think I've always thought about that from my mom's side. Like I have a very first of all, I was going to say I have a very high tolerance for the way that like Max's family could treat me and it would roll off my back because it's his family. Not that I need that. Max's family are angels. I love them so much. I literally have the best in-laws. Like I have nothing to say. They're the best. I feel so blessed. In general, though, I'm just saying, like, this is something I think about with a life partner. And I've also seen the ways Max has been so unconditional and loving and has cherished my family and forgiven my family and whatever he needs to do because it's my family. And, like, we're going to have respect there. So I'm harping a lot on this one, but number 2 for my non-negotiables is mutual respect. And those are some examples of the way I think it bleeds into our lives. My third non-negotiable for choosing your life partner is that they have a commitment and a willingness to growth. And by that, I mean self-growth and inner work. I literally could not be married and share my life with someone who was not on a pursuit of growth or believed that they could grow or stayed curious about themselves and life and was open to that. I couldn't be with someone who was emotionally and mentally stunted and wasn't interested in bettering themselves. I need a life partner who doesn't shut down when things get deep or hard. Someone who wants to not only grow themselves, but grow with me. I feel like I am always like trying to work on myself and I'm evolving, and it's so nice to have a partner who wants to have those conversations. And Max is not in weekly therapy like me. He has gone. He has gone. He's open to that. He doesn't need it right now. That's okay. I don't need him reading the same books I have. He's never read A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. Like, I don't need him to do the exact same things that I do. But if I say, babe, I want to listen to this Eckhart podcast on our drive, he's open to listening it. If I say, babe, I want to tell you about this chapter I read about ego and what I learned from it, he will have that conversation with me, So I don't push the exact path I'm on onto him, but he's open, he's emotionally intelligent, and that's super important to me. Another example I'll give here is like, we've both said that we would be open to couples counseling if the time came when we needed that. I don't feel like I have a partner who I'm like, oh, I could never say we need to go to couples therapy. If down the line we need to go, I know he'd say, whatever you think we need to do, babe, I'm there because this marriage is my priority. So I think having someone who's open to growth, emotional growth, and is committed to working on themselves is a non-negotiable for me. Okay, number 4 was inspired by the obvious, I want to marry a good person. They've got to be a good person, right? People say like, I want them to be a good person and have a good heart. To take that to the next level, I think the word for me is really integrity. So number 4 is integrity. For example, and you might think I'm crazy. You might think, girl, there's no way. Or I thought the same thing and now I'm divorced. That's okay. Let me have my delusion here then if that's what you think it is. I don't think it is. But if Max and I, God forbid, ever got a divorce, I just know he wouldn't screw me. I just know he wouldn't be petty in a divorce. I just know we could talk it out like 2 decent human beings. We were actually watching The Pitt. We finished The Pitt. We loved it. It's a great show. And there's a dynamic between one of the doctors and her ex-husband, and they share a son. And, right when the guy walks in, she's like, what are you doing here? Like, you should, like, just their whole dynamic is so negative and petty, and it's like in front of the kid. And Max and I both were just like, if we, God forbid, got divorced, we would never like speak that way in front of the kid, first of all. And I just know his integrity. I know he would do the right thing when no one's watching. Another example is if you watch season 3 of White Lotus, there's the father who did the illegal stuff. I think he was insider trading. I forget what it was. And like his wife had no idea. And he essentially like lost all of his family's money because he violated the law and was doing shady stuff. Like, Max would never, there would never be a situation where I would find out that he's been like embezzling money or like in Ozark, like money laundering. Like if we ever had an issue, like I know he would come to me and he would do the right thing and we wouldn't do that. So that's what I mean by integrity. Like, because I think you can marry someone and think they're a good person, but do you think under pressure they could crack and lose sight of like their moral values or their character? Because to me, that's like that next level. It's like you're not just having the top layer of the cake, you're cutting down into the second, third, fourth layer, and you're knowing that like they can stay true to their core of who they are, even in life's like toughest moments. And that's huge for me. And I think anyone that knows Max could attest to his character in that way. And I would hope that my loved ones and friends would say the same thing about me. And I believe that to be true about myself. So the 4th non-negotiable for me is having a very strong moral code and sense of integrity. Oh, another fun little silly example I'll give for this is I had a relationship in high school. And I remember one time we were like getting sandwiches at a sandwich shop, and my high school boyfriend at the time, whatever you want to call it, was rude to the cashier, the service person. And it's appalling to me. Like, I'm so icked out. I'm so turned off. Ew, I just hate that quality in a person. Okay, number 5, my 5th non-negotiable for my life partner is being able to support each other's dreams. And I think that sounds cute and that sounds fluffy. Like, yeah, I want to marry someone who supports me and believes in me. But I really think this involves sacrifice. Actually, I don't know why I'm getting emotional thinking about this. Why am I getting emotional? I don't know why this is making me emotional, because I swear I don't like think about this or ruminate on this. But I think what's coming up for me is I was going to give 2 examples. The first was rewind back to that time in life where football did not work out for Max and he had no idea what he was going to do. He was lost. And the one person that inspired him was Gary Vee. The one person he thought, I just want to be around this company and be around this environment and figure it out from there, was Gary Vee at Team Vayner. And fortunately, because Sam Darnold was the one who beat out Max for the quarterback position at USC and was now playing in the NFL on the New York Jets, and Gary Vee loves the Jets, Max was able to text Sam and be like, do you think you could throw me one bone? Which was connecting him with Gary. And then that's how Max got his first job out in New York City. So Max and I were in college at USC together. And then he transferred to Pitt because he wasn't playing on the USC football team. And so he wanted to transfer to a school where he could be out on the field to give himself a chance at the NFL. And so he transferred to Pittsburgh. So we did long distance. And then after we did that long distance, which was like so hard and brutal because we were both D1 athletes, like we were not able to visit each other. We didn't have time to talk that much. We weren't texting. You have class. It was so busy. We did long distance. And then football doesn't work out. It's like gut wrenching. It's so sad. It's so hard. And then he says to me, I want to move to New York. And I'm like, I'm obviously in LA. That was really hard. But I'm not trying to hype myself up. I'm just saying, for the sake of, if this is my standard for someone else, I'm holding it for myself. I never told him no. I never guilt tripped him. I never made him feel guilty. I was just like, if that's what you need to do, that's what you need to do. Like, I knew that he was the one I wanted to spend my life with. I knew he was confused and needed to figure it out. And if he needed to fly all the way to New York to work this job to figure out his own answers, that's what he had to do. And I never wanted to have any resentment where I said, no, you were just in Pittsburgh and you need to come back to Southern California and we need to be here together. 5 years, like, what if he 5 years later was like, you know what? I don't like what I'm doing. You never let me explore. I just feel unfulfilled. Like, I just believed in our relationship enough that I was like, we can handle this. And so he went to New York. And then now, obviously he's a broadcaster, which is so exciting. And last season and this coming fall, he will be gone every single weekend for 14 to 16 weekends in a row. He will be gone. That's hard. Yeah, we work during the week. Granted, we have very flexible jobs and we're very blessed and privileged with that, and we can make more time for each other on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. But Thursday through Sunday, he's traveling and he's working and he's not in the state, and that's hard. But to this point of supporting each other's dreams, I know he would do the same for me. I know if I got some sick gig and I got to go interview Taylor Swift every weekend for 16 weeks, he would support me and he would say, hell yeah, you got to do this. And I think in order to thrive together in our marriage, we both have to feel fulfilled in our individual pursuits. And so although we share a life, we still get to live our own and maintain that independence. And that's huge for us. I don't know why that made me emotional when I was starting to say it. I think just because it is hard. Obviously, when you have a partner who's so driven and motivated in something that, like, it does take a lot of their energy and time. And I'm sure people listening to me who have partners who are, this is way different because freaking doctors are angels and they're legends. But if you're with someone pre-med, or they're getting placed, or they've got a residency, or they're working gnarly hours, or you have a partner who needs to work 2 jobs, or, they already have kids, whatever it is, I think a lot of people can relate to just that. And it might not be on your time and it might not be ideal. And honestly, I think the emotion came less from a place of feeling like sad and more from like a place of maybe happiness about how we made the sacrifices early on in our relationship. And now I'm so proud and happy for Max that it's paying off and he's crushing it. And also Max, of course, supports mine and believes in me. And we both have a shared drive and a shared ambition for our careers. And I think it's awesome how we can like respect each other's and like find ways to keep our marriage a priority and to show up for each other and be a part of each other's wins. And I think the one other thing I'll add is it's not just allowing your partner to pursue their dreams, but it's allowing your partner to pursue your dreams without making them feel guilty or responsible for your reaction or response to that. So like if I'm lonely on the weekends in the fall and my husband's not here and he can't come to the double date or he can't come to the party or the birthday because he's gone, like I'm not making him feel bad about that. Yes, my feelings of loneliness or wishing he was there are valid, but I'm not going to guilt trip Max with that. Like, because I've made the decision to support his dream. And like, if I'm feeling lonely, I got to make more friends. I got to book something social. I need to figure out some way to cope with that on my own and not make it his responsibility. So that's a lot, but this is a huge one for us. So that's number 5. Supporting each other's dreams. Okay, lastly, you made it to number 6. This is my 6th non-negotiable when choosing my life partner, and that's Equitable Partnership Energy. EPE, baby. And what I mean by this fancy schmancy number 6, Equitable Partnership Energy, is that both of us show up emotionally, logistically, domestically, we do financially 50-50. And it's not always a perfect 50-50 split, but we have a spirit of mutual investment and fairness towards our relationship. You know, we have never been the happy wife, happy life household, which at times has sucked for me. We are a happy spouse, happy house household. And that is something that I really value. And I don't have any sense of there being a time where I feel like Max is going to like hang me out to dry or expect me to be superwoman and do a million things and not pull his weight. We both pull our weight. You know, if I cook dinner, he cleans. If he cooks, I clean. If I decorate the house, he recycles all the packages from the furniture that I opened. We very much approach our marriage and relationship with a similar dedication, sense of responsibility, excitement, and care. I would not want an absent partner. I wouldn't want a partner who could only give me their remaining energy or half-ass it. Like, I really want someone committed who prioritizes our marriage and relationship. Max literally always calls me his P1. It's so cute. He's like, P1, you're my P1. I'm like, what's P1? And he's like, priority 1. And that obviously just makes me feel so special. I think that also lends into like when you're married, you are each other's family. We are legally family, and that person becomes your new number 1. You could, depends how you view it, but at least for us, although it never comes to this because I love my family dearly and my best friends dearly, but Max comes first. And you know, I think actually an example of this was when Jonathan and Cubby got engaged and they had an engagement party. Max had some sort of football opportunity that same Saturday. And I remember talking to him and it was just like, you know what? I was like, we're married. We're family. This is my brother. It's now your brother. It's really important to me that you're at this engagement party. Like, I forget what it was, if it was a radio appearance or whatever it was, but I was just like, when we look at these two things, this is the priority because we're a family unit. And if we were boyfriend and girlfriend, I wouldn't say this. I wouldn't, quote, make you do this. Or so we never want to make each other do anything, but I wouldn't strongly voice my case of how important this is to me and how I want it to be important to you. So I think something that goes along with this is just like when you're married, you're choosing that this person matters and you're going to show up for them above everything within reason, of course. You know, like I said, there's going to be many things Max misses because of his career, and I support him and I stand by him, and that's the life I've signed up for too in his career. But like, I think that's just an example of, you know, what's important. And similarly, this is small, but like when Max got honored and indicted into the Hall of Fame of his high school, Skyline, go Spartans if you're out there in Sammamish, Washington. You know, I could have been like, oh, I don't want to fly to Seattle and I've been on so many planes and work's been busy. No, my husband, my P1, is getting indicted into his high school Hall of Fame, and I'm going to be there to watch him and support him and take pictures and be a part of this moment. So equitable partnership energy not only means, you know, being each other's priority, but also showing up for the relationship with the same level of intensity and care. So those were my 6 non-negotiables when choosing my life partner. I'll read them again. Number 1, self-awareness and accountability. Number 2, mutual respect, especially in conflict. Number 3, commitment and willingness to growth. Number 4, integrity. Number 5, supporting each other's dreams. And number 6, EPE, Equitable Partnership Energy. I feel very good in my choice of life partner. I hope these gave you some really good thought starters. I hope you were nodding along. I hope you felt the same. Go ahead and leave a comment on today's RealPod Instagram post to tell me what your favorite ones were. If you have any that you would add, tell me yours. I hope that you enjoyed this episode, so thanks for listening. And I'm probably off to do something cute with Max for our anniversary. So I will see you next Wednesday.